you had this interesting perspective about a lesson that societies don't last forever, that societies and cultures and empires providing additional perspective when thinking about cultural issues, obviously something pretty salient to you given where you were born. What is that additional perspective or insight, or what's the lesson that should be taken away from that?
I can't remember who said this, but there's this very famous line that things that can't last forever won't. If something can't go on forever, it won't. And so when we look at the direction of Western society over the last 10, 15 years, we talked about it in the UK, we've talked about it in Europe, and to some extent in the United States, unless Trump really is able to turn it around. If you run very high levels of debt, if you have high levels of crime, if you have high levels of illegal and legal immigration that fundamentally change the values and culture of a country, if you refuse to prioritize the citizens of your own country and say, we want to take care of our people, if you refuse to pursue economic growth at the cost of other things, because that's what you have to do, because everything is trade-off. So if you want more economic growth, you might have less climate obsession or whatever. If you have a situation where young people can't advance, as we've talked about, if we have a situation where large communities of people don't have access to meaningful work, on and on and on. If that goes on for a period of time, I know from my Soviet experience that societies don't always last forever. And then if you actually look at history, you know that no society lasted forever, ever. So when things are bad and continually so and keep getting worse, and this is maintained over a period of time, and on top of that, you're told actually this is the right way to go, it's not unreasonable in that situation to say, well, if we carry on going in this direction, this is going to end badly. Now, at the same time, people like me who make this point often get accused of like scaremongering, whatever, and it's true. Like I remember in the 90s when I was talking to my dad about my job prospects, he was like, look, definitely don't be a lawyer, because on current trends by the year 2000, everyone in the world is going to be a lawyer. Now, surprise, surprise, not everyone in the world is a lawyer. And so societies do change track over time and people change track over time. But it's the job, I feel, of people like me who've had that experience of knowing that society doesn't last forever to remind people that like it's all our civilization is like a big Jenga block. Like you can pull some out and it will stay standing. But if you pull all of the cores bits out, it is actually capable of collapse. This isn't guaranteed to last forever. It's
one of those people that takes their relationship, their significant other for granted over and over again, and they don't do the things that need to keep the relationship on track. And then one day, the relationship breaks down and that person leaves them.
And I get it. The vast majority of Western citizens are, historically speaking, very passive, very, very unwilling to revolt, very unwilling to engage in violence, very unwilling to overthrow the government, very comfortable by comparative standards to previous centuries ago, where it's literally like, well, I could like die tomorrow of disease and hunger, starvation, because you're not looking after me, or I could try and overthrow you. Like, what do I really have to lose? Most people in the West are not like that. And so the people in charge are very insulated and protected.
There's a level of comfort that sedates the populace from doing that.
Yes, I get it. But you got to recognize that can change over time. And I would really like us not to push as far as we possibly can to find out where that line is, where you piss people off enough. Do you see what I mean? Why don't we just like...
Is that a risk, do you think?
Not right now, but it was in the summer. In this country, we had riots in this country from people who, as you rightly say, the media and other people tried to call them far right. I thought the vast majority of them were not even remotely political at all.
Correct.
So what does that tell you? It tells you that there's a significant body of the population who are very, very, very frustrated.
There's some kindling there.
Yeah. The kindling is undoubtedly there. And by the way, not just among those people. You saw from the Muslim community the feeling that like, well, we got to go and tool up and be in the streets to defend ourselves. Now, you have those two forces rising at once, it's not a good outcome. And so, no, I'm not saying, again, like when I had this, I don't know if you saw my conversation with this journalist about Elon Musk. It's a recorded conversation with him trying to interrogate me about why I agree with Elon that civil war. It's a video on our channel. It's done crazy numbers because he's trying to. It shows you all the sleazy old school approaches.
Was it for your channel or for somebody else?
For our channel.
Who was it?
It's like NBC journalist versus Konstantin Kisin about Elon Musk or something like that. And he tries to catch me out, and it really doesn't end well for him. But the broader point is, Elon said, looking at the riots in the UK, the logical conclusion of this or something like that is civil war. And I think he's right. That doesn't mean that I think we're there now. It doesn't mean that I think we're guaranteed to get there.
And that we can't intervene.
And it certainly doesn't mean that we can't intervene. I think the reason that Elon and I are both saying this is a possibility is we'd like it not to happen. But for it not to happen, things have to be improved. And my invitation to the people who have the ability to change things to the extent that they do is to recognize that, yes, we're not there right now, but you carry this shit on for another 20 years, you have no idea what the situation is going to be.
Strange like. that sort of rhetoric is sometimes interpreted as a threat. It's like, this isn't me saying that this is an outcome that I'm looking for, but just like head in sand, this isn't an option, this isn't going to happen, you're being overblown. I don't know, man. You're right.
But it happens in everything. You know this. Like, I actually know personally somebody whose mother went to the hospital because she had diabetes. And the doctor said, if you keep up the diet that you have, you will die and have very serious complications as a result of your diabetes because you're obese. And that person, who's my friend's relative, reported the doctor for being offensive or whatever. And this is what people often do. It's like if you say, if you only eat ice cream, you're actually going to get fat and be unhealthy. People sort of like, they blame you for telling them that truth. And this is the same thing. It's like nobody who's predicting that we're heading in the wrong direction wants us to be heading in the wrong direction. On the contrary, but you get blamed for warning about the things that end up happening. And it doesn't make any sense to me. So just to be clear, I want the West to be prosperous, successful. I want it absolutely, unashamedly, to be the dominant civilization in the world. I don't want any of this multipolar bollocks. Our civilization is the best civilization on the planet. Its values, such as they were classically, not a lot of all this other rainbow bullshit, are the right values. They're the best values human beings have ever come up with. Freedom, in every form, liberty, the capitalist model, which has areas that need managing carefully, but broadly speaking is about unleashing the talents of human beings and rewarding them for cooperation. And all of these other things that we've developed over time, they are the best values. I'm not saying we have to go and impose them on anybody else. In fact, that's not how freedom works. People have to buy into it. And so, I'm not into going and bombing Iraq into democracy, bombing Afghanistan into freedom, because clearly it doesn't work. But our civilization is the best. Our civilization needs to be strong, confident, prosperous, and united. And that is very far from where we are. And that's the goal I'd like us to be working with. So when I say we're heading in the wrong direction, what I mean is let's head in this direction instead.